This is Jocko Underground Podcast number 58. Sitting here with Echo Charles. Echo Charles, how long does it take to plan a SEAL mission?
30 minutes. More. Less?
More,
right? More than you have.
So this is a common question that I used to ask the SEALs. It'd be like, how long will it take you to plan this mission? And guys say, well, 4 hours or 6 hours or 8 hours or 1 hour. And the answer actually is, this is actually what the answer is. It's a half an hour longer than the amount of time that you had to plan the mission. Because that's what it takes to get everything aligned. You're almost there. Then you got to freaking make some last minute adjustments. Yeah. Now, I recently discovered there's a theory, a law around this. And it's actually called Parkinson's Law. And Parkinson's Law, what it states is that work expands so as to fill the time available for its completion. Now, in a planning for like a SEAL mission, there's always a little bit extra to do. That's why it expands beyond it by about a half an hour. You give somebody 20 minutes to plan, it's going to take them 50. You give them an hour, it's going to take an hour 30. So this guy, his name was Cyril Northcote Parkinson. He was alive, born in 1909, lived till 1993. He was a naval historian. He was an author, and he served in the Territorial Army, which is like the reserves over in England. And he actually ended up teaching quite a bit at school, at military schools. But he made up this law, and the law was kind of, and I read through it. It's a spoof. He's kind of making fun of. He's making fun of it, right? Yeah. It's sort of like my statement of like, it takes a half an hour. Like the theory is that it takes 1/2 hour longer than that's what he's doing too. And he put a bunch of formulations around it, and he made other ones, but the number of new employees hired annually over the number of employees who want to be promoted by hiring new employees. He goes through all these formulations. They're funny, and that was for one of his other laws. But he just talks about how bureaucracies form and how they grow and what their effectiveness and efficiency is. But this particular law is interesting, and it's interesting to pay attention to because it allows you to take some control over time, right? And knowing that if you can compress time, you can get more done. Let's say I have a call with an East Coast client that's at 7 o'clock in the morning. It takes me a half an hour, to get done, get showered. My workout, I'm going to be super efficient, and it's going to be a good freaking workout.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to waste any time. I'm in there. I'm getting it. If I have my first calls at 9, bro, my workout's going to take longer, and it's not going to be necessarily, look, sometimes it's nice you go in there, you get a little bit of a better workout because you have more time. Yeah. But when you're on a timeline, you get more efficient. Yeah. This also applies to if you're going on a hike or you're going on a mission and you have whatever size rucksack you have, it's going to get filled up. So the bigger rucksack you have, the more crap you're going to bring. Here's another one, your house. The bigger your house is. Remember when you had an apartment?
Yep, I do.
Back in the day?
Back in the day, yeah.
And you didn't have a bunch of stuff.
Nope.
You had like very limited stuff.
Yep.
Now you got a big house.
Yep.
And you got a lot of stuff.
With a garage too, by the way.
With the garage that I've been in, which is kind of filled up with stuff.
It's real.
As well. Do your cars fit in your garage anymore?
They do now. We very recently just made the decision to go hard and clear it out, yeah.
So if you put limitations on yourself, it can actually increase your efficiency. If you set yourself up with a tight schedule, it can drive your tempo. It can drive your pace. If you give yourself unlimited time, if you give yourself unlimited resources, you're going to use all those resources. You're going to use all that time. Constraints that you put on yourself are very effective. Nick Lavery, who's a special forces guy. He's on the podcast. He lost his leg in Afghanistan, and he's got one of his legs is a prosthetic leg. But one of the things he talks about is that when he puts his leg, when he says, look, when you have a prosthetic leg, when you put that leg on, the timer starts because there's sweat going to build up, the skin's starting to get worn, your basically your body changes a little bit over time. You know, you got to tighten that thing up. You either get swelling or you get reduction. And so all these things are going on. So when he puts his leg on, he has depending on the weather, depending on the temperature, depending on the activity, he knows when he puts that leg on, he has got to take advantage of that mobility. And that is something, all these things that I'm talking about, the reason I'm talking about them is because they can really help us if we understand Parkinson's law and we understand the hazards of Parkinson's law, then we can put things into effect that will help us avoid falling into that trap.
Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah, one of the things, right? Is like
the things. Sure. That's pretty specific.
Yeah. Is like I don't know, maybe you ever did this, or maybe your wife did this, or maybe you know someone who did this that you live with, where it's like, okay, let's say your house is kind of messy. Let's say it's normal messy, but someone's coming over. And they're like, oh, shit, I'm going to be there in 15 minutes. And you start, I don't want them to see my mess, right? And you start cleaning up. Bro, that's like a solid, quick, clean job, you know?
Yep.
It's kind of the same thing.
And it'd be not bad.
Yeah, it'll probably be, I mean, in my experience, it's usually pretty solid, you know?
Yeah.
Because you got to, but it's the kind of the same thing. It's like, the clock is running. You're not dilly-dallying. You're not like going through drawers and be like, I remember this thing. Do I need it? Do I not? You're just making decisions.
Yeah, one of the little quotes I saw around this thing is, if you wait to the last minute, it only takes a minute.
Exactly.
Now,
man.
I don't appreciate that. Now, one thing that I mess up, where I have a problem is, I think I don't want to be late for anything, and therefore, let's say I'm coming to record the podcast, and I'm like, okay, I'm meeting Echo at 4:30 at night. Okay, 4:30, and I get done with a call at 4, and I'm like, you know what? I need gas, and I can drive here, stop, or drive to the gas station, stop, get gas, and then continue here, and then be here at 4:30. But there's like a 1% chance that I'm here at 4:33, and so I don't do it. So I could have. It cost me 3 minutes of being late, but now when I drive home, I waste 12 minutes going to the gas station, getting the gas filled, and all that stuff. So I I need to do a better job of just fitting stuff in there.
Yeah.
Just get it done.
Yeah.
Just, hey, look, I'll be a little bit late, but no factor. Deal with it. Like you were late today, for instance. I could have gassed. I could have gone to the grocery store or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yep, you could have.
You were on Hawaiian time for
yes,
us.
Sir. Yeah. Well, yeah. But that's okay. And then there's this factor too, where it's kind of along those lines as well, where, okay, I'm assuming you never did this because of your college experience that I know about. You weren't like this, but I was like this, where let's say they're like, okay, we got this paper due, and it's in 2 weeks, this paper's due, and it's about this. And bro, to me, 2 weeks, I don't even have to start till next week, like, bro, I could do it in 1 week, and then 1 week turns into like 4 days now you have left, to turn in 4 days, and then 3 days, and then I have 1 day to do it, and I didn't even start. Like, I think that's a common thing for a lot of us college students.
It's definitely a common thing, and it is almost embarrassing. Yeah. For me, I would literally be like done with stuff a week in advance. Yeah. Like, it was so stupid.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And this is a whole nother thing. But
by the way, I'm not trying to like humble brag. I was a 28-year-old man at this point. This was my job. I wasn't going to a party. Right. I wasn't meeting a girl after class or before class. I wasn't going drinking. No. I was a grown man with kids, a wife, a house. Like, this was my job. That's what I was doing. Yeah. So they gave me an assignment. I was like, okay, cool. Let me get this done.
Right. And that's like, and that was when you told me all that, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense, because that's probably how, if I chose to, or went back to college, if I chose to go back to college for whatever reason, that's how it would be too. Where, because it's when you're 18. When you are 18,
could you choose to be this way
in my case, 17. There's this newfound sense of freedom, parties like 3 times a week. Like there's all this stuff that's like you're not used to, all these like perks and liberties and benefits and pleasures that you're not necessarily used to. So that they become these massive distractions. So all this class, you barely even know why you're taking this class. So that's way on the back burner. So all this other stuff is like, you know, takes precedence or whatever. But when you're 28, just like I said, like, no, you got a wife, family, you chose to be here. You know why you're there too. And you're like, bro, and it's kind of easy when you look at it that way. Like college, I mean, just like high school, it's the same thing, but depending on who you are. But college in and of itself is like, I don't want to say it's all colleges are easy, but I'm just saying, like, if you approach it like that, you'd be surprised how you can fly through these things. But nonetheless, it depends. But not all of us are like that in college. So you procrastinate all the way until the last day. You pull an all-nighter and you get it done and get a good grade. I've done that more than once. One time I got a straight up A, perfect score on a paper that I did in one day. 2 weeks it was supposed to be.
How long was the paper?
4 pages.
Okay.
Minor.
I can't even give you much credit for that, dude.
I know, bro, but still.
That's pretty easy.
I had 2 weeks. I did it in one day.
Yeah.
So, but all that did was kind of embolden me further.
Yeah.
So now next time I know, they say 2 weeks, no problem, one day, you know? So it kind of can like perpetuate the bad behavior in a small way, you know, if you pull it off.
Yep. Don't do it. Don't do it. There we go. The bottom line is constraints can be useful. Discipline equals freedom. Parkinson's law. Know it. Understand it. Don't fall into the trap of giving yourself a bunch of time because you'll use it all. And we don't have unlimited time. So there you go.
You said something a couple times, and you probably remember this, that it actually impacted me a lot. The idea of things looming. Was that, were we recording or not?
I don't know.
I don't think we were recording actually. You said you don't like.
I don't like things looming. Like a paper that's due.
Yeah, exactly. So in a way, the better way to think of it is, if I can procrastinate for 2 weeks and actually get it done in 1 day, we'll say 2 days, right? We'll say 2. If I can procrastinate 2 weeks and get it done in 2 days, why don't I just go hard the first 2 days of the 2 weeks?
Pressure up front.
Yeah, then I got 2 weeks to cruise, which I would be doing anyway. But now I don't have anything looming, which is a big deal. Me, I'm kind of used to things looming. Not so much anymore, but looming, that's just a mental exercise right there.
Stay away from it.
But when the looming goes away, it's like this sense of like relief.
It is a sense of relief.
That's really nice.
It's probably because I have a high level of conscientiousness, and you probably don't. That's what I think is probably the trait that incurs. That is a little excerpt of what we are doing on the Jocko Underground podcast. So if you want to continue to listen, go to jockounderground.com and subscribe. And we're doing this to mitigate our reliance on external platforms so we are not subject to their control. And we're doing it so we can give you more control, more interaction, more direct connections, better communications with us, strengthen this legion of troopers that are in the game with us. So thank you. It's jockounderground.com. It costs $8.18 a month. And if you can't afford to support us, we can still support you. Just email assistance@jockounderground.com and we'll get you taken care of. Until then, we will see you mobilized underground.